When the movie came out in 1981, I saw it at least a dozen times at the theater. And I've loved this car my whole life. I think the younger me would never believe that I actually own this car, much less would ever even see it.
I have an image of my foot on a wooden block because I was too short to reach the pedals.
The Lamborghini Countach LP 400S revolutionized the automotive world in 1979, and in 1981, it became a film star. Inspired by true events, cult movie The Cannonball Run tells the story of a cross-country car race from Connecticut to California. In the screen version, a black Lamborghini Countach LP 400S is the star of the show from the outset, with the iconic angular design ripping through the desert as the opening credits roll. The super sports car is driven by characters Marcy and Jill, played by Adrienne Barbeau and Tara Buckman, who ultimately crossed the finish line first to win the Cannonball Run. On the other side of the movie screen, Florida attorney Jeff Ippoliti remembers seeing the film as a young boy when it was released in 1981. Like many of those who saw it, he dreamed that one day he might own a Lamborghini, like the one roaring through the American landscape on the silver screen. Little did he know that one day his dream would come true. Today, he not only owns a Lamborghini Countach, but the exact super sports car used on camera in the Cannonball Run. A vehicle that made history in 2021 as it became one of only 29 vehicles to enter the US Library of Congress for special significance in American pop culture history. For this episode of Angles, we invited Adrienne Barbeau and Tara Buckman to be reunited with the shining black Countach LP 400S for the first time since the movie was released. And we talked to its owner, Jeff Ippoliti, about his relationships with the Cannonball Run and his legendary super sports car.
We haven't seen each other since we made the movie.
But then I was forgetting what year we made the movie.
We made the movie in 1981, or it was released in 1981,
So there you go.
a little earlier than that.
Which is how many years ago?
Yeah.
I don't want to add.
Well, you haven't changed hardly at all.
You look great.
We both haven't.
Fabulous.
We're holding up. We're holding up. Not as good as the car, but... Cannonball Run was one of my first features. I've been doing stage and film and television and everything. And I was going to act. I was going to create a character. I was going to say the words that were on the page.
Right.
Nobody else did.
There was a joke. Yeah.
It was just, and it worked. It worked for the film, but from my point of view, there was a sense of, we can just, as long as we're having fun, it doesn't matter what we say, it doesn't matter what we do, the audience will have fun.
We laughed a whole lot.
I didn't.
I think Dawn took up the time. The Countach spoke for us.
Yeah.
That was the star. The opening shot that you see is that gorgeous Lamborghini. And coming down, you see the speed and screeches. So impressed. I got to ride in it fast, and I got to take off in it fast. And I have to tell you that my experience in that car, it was just comfortable. It was smooth.
I was living in upstate New York, grew up in Syracuse, New York. And back then, I had heard of Lamborghinis, but never seen or heard a car in a film, or certainly in person. I was a kid when the movie came out, and I saw it, and especially that first 4 minutes of that car on the screen, it was just amazing to me. I went back and saw the movie the next day, and probably the next, but at least a dozen times when it came out, and I've probably seen it more than 100 times now. The the opening scene where the car was coming at the camera and it looked so low and so flat and so sinister and black, and then the sound of it. And watching the car go back and forth and playing cat and mouse with the cops, it was just an amazing 4 minutes for me on the screen. And every time that car showed up again during the film, I just, again, was so mesmerized by it. Just loved it, and that has never stopped. You know, it was the first exotic car that I actually saw, and you could hear and see it move on the screen. And it was just so futuristic. I mean, even now, today, nearly 50 years later, it still looks amazing. It still looks incredible. My brother and I started a charity event to benefit Make-A-Wish in 2004. And it was a car show based in Central Florida. And I knew that Ron Rice from Hawaiian Tropic had owned the car since the filming of Cannonball Run. And Ron lived in Ormond Beach, very close to where we were in Orlando. So I thought it would be cool to have that car at our event. And I called the Lamborghini dealer in Orlando and asked if he would introduce me to Ron Rice and perhaps get the car to the event. Ron couldn't have been more gracious. He called me the next day and said because it's a charity event, he'd be happy to send the car. And when he did, I was mesmerized. To me, it was a movie star. Ron was not at the event, but the person that brought the car to the event said, Ron may consider selling it. So I called Ron right there, standing in front of the car. And it took a while, but we negotiated back and forth, and then I finally owned it and put it into a 2-year restoration by my friend Tony Irardi.
Well, my favorite thing about being in that movie, and unfortunately it didn't have to do with the car, but we were filming in Lancaster, and it was very, very hot. And Roger Moore's air conditioning went down in his trailer.
Oh, gosh.
And he asked if he could come sit with me, and I was so starstruck. I thought, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? It's Roger Moore. And I think we ended up talking about the school system in Southern California or something. But I still remember. And Roger, in his white suit, in the middle of the desert, with, the cars racing past, was pristine. He was always, there was never a dust spot on him.
The stunt crew was fun too, because they were really professional, and obviously there were a lot of stunts.
I didn't do a lot of the driving, obviously.
Yeah, but just getting in and out was just awesome.
I may be wrong, correct me if I am, but it was this movie that brought the Lamborghini to the United States.
To me, it's always been an important car. And I think everybody in my age group had a picture of the Countach, or a poster of the Countach on their wall growing up. So it's iconic. And the movie was hilarious. It was a great film, one of the biggest films of 1981. But for me, it was always about the car first. And then a few years ago, I got an email from Haggerty, who runs the National Historic Vehicle Registry for the Library of Congress. And the car was inducted as the 30th car in history onto the National Historic Vehicle Registry. So what that means is that Congress of the United States has determined or deemed that this car is important to American history. So one of 30. And I think that says it all about how important this car is to American culture, and what it meant to a whole generation of people, and what it meant to a company like Lamborghini.
I thought the car was just beautiful, and it still is.
We had the best car.
Yes, oh, no question, no question. Well, we won the race. I think the Countach looks like a winner. I mean, none of the other cars could have won the race.
For me, my favorite feature of that car is just the way it looks. It's so low and it's so flat. I got speaking to Reuven, the CTO for Lamborghini last week, and we got talking about the size of cars. And cars have grown to huge dimensions now comparatively. And while the car, when you're looking at it up close, seems like a normal-sized car, when you put it next to a 2024 model, it seems positively tiny. And what Reuven explained is with the technology now and the safety features that cars have to have, it's impossible to make a car of this size, in this shape anymore. It's so dramatic to me. And again, even after nearly a half a century, it is still an absolutely dramatic, astounding looking car. Driving it is like a rolling circus. And I always say it's like shock and awe when people see it. I still walk into my garage after nearly 2 decades and I get chills. Sometimes I have to go out and just touch the car to prove to myself it's actually real. It's not just driving a car, it's a whole experience with this car.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Angles, a Lamborghini podcast. New episodes will be coming regularly on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Lamborghini.com. We hope you can join us for the next episode, coming very soon.